Hi, I'm Katie Hacker, your host, and sometimes all it takes to update a traditional technique is to change up your materials. Cindy Holsclaw is here today with a whole new direction for beadwork using Half-Tila beads. Welcome, Cindy.
Thank you, Katie.
So
Thanks
excited to have
me.
you here. Yeah, and you know what? This is a great idea because people have seen these specialty beads, but you know, this gives you another dimension for how to use them.
Yeah, the great thing that I love about all the new beads, such as the Half-Tilas that we'll be talking about today, is that they not only offer a new look to your beadwork, but they also offer a different way to put your beadwork together, different construction techniques and engineering techniques.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, if we take a look at the regular size too, you can see the difference between the regular Tila and half.
Yeah, so this is the regular Tila. I'll show one right here. And it kind of has this tile shape to it. And it has two holes. You can see one sticking up right there. And so the Half-Tila is just a little rectangular half-size Tila. And again, it has the same two-hole configuration. And the thing that I love about the Half-Tila shape is that it just has a little bit more flexibility in the kinds of beadwork that you can do.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So today I'm going to show how to use these beads to make a bezel to enclose a Rivoli. And I'll show, here's the finished one right here. And so Rivoli crystals like this, they really provide a nice sparkle to finished beadwork.
Definitely.
But the problem with them is they don't have any holes. So how am I going to incorporate this into my beadwork if I can't string through it? So many beaders use lots of different techniques to make a bezel to enclose them. So a common one is to use the circular peyote stitch with cylinder beads, for example. And today I'm going to do something similar with just a couple rounds using these Half-Tila beads.
Okay, well that is such a pretty effect. And I can see why you need kind of a special engineering for this project too.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so how do we get started?
So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up 10 Half-Tila beads, and then I'm going to pass through all of them in a circle, just through one set of the holes. And then I also pass through the first one again, just so that I have a little bit of tension in my beadwork here. And I'm holding it because they're going to flop around a little bit at this point, but that's okay. And I leave my tail thread on for now because I like this to be a little bit flexible at this point. These beads are going to sit on the back of our bezel, but I'll eventually weave this back in and tie it off later. And so to step up to the second round, I'm just going to pass through the second hole of that same Half-Tila bead, like that. And I'll go ahead and do that here. And now I'm ready to add my next round.
All right.
Yeah. So I'm going to switch colors. I'll pick up a purple bead.
And you're using
like
a
this.
thermally bonded type of beading thread.
Yeah, I am. There's several different beading threads you can use. I like one like this because sometimes every now and then, especially with some of the new beads, the edges of the holes can be just a little bit sharp. So just so to have a nice strong thread helps to avoid any problems that would damage the thread during this.
Okay, that's a great tip.
Yeah, and so I'm just adding a second set in between these empty holes of my first round, just like that. And I'm going to keep going around until I've added 10 of them, just like that, there.
Okay, so you it's a starburst.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
And so again, to step up to the next round, I'm going to continue through the purple one here. And just like in the previous round, I'm going to pass through that second hole. And now I'm ready to add my next round.
Okay, so now I do start stitching it together?
What
would you say? Not exactly.
Not quite yet. I'm
Okay.
going to add my second round, and I've switched back to my first teal color there. And you can see at this point, I've actually gone through a second time with my thread in order to cinch it up a bit. And you see what that does is it makes this little basket shape to the whole beadwork, like that, to the whole component. And that makes the perfect little space to enclose that Rivoli.
Yeah,
just
and you
like
can see
that.
there you still have one side of it free.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And so what I'm going to do now, in order to bring them all together, to cinch it all up, I'm going to cinch it all up through that other set of holes. And I'm going to add a size 15 seed bead in between them, just to get a little bit more texture to it.
And we'll have the pattern for this online, but if somebody is trying to determine how many beads for their Rivoli, they say have a different size. So it would just be a little bit of experimenting to figure out how many.
And yes, you can do some experimenting, but in this case I'm using a 14 millimeter Rivoli. In the pattern I talk about how many beads you'll need for an 18 millimeter Rivoli, and then even a 27 millimeter Rivoli.
Really want to make a statement, huh?
Exactly, and I can talk about other examples of that later too.
Okay, sure.
Yeah. Yeah, so you can see as I add these 15s, the Half-Tilas start to come together in the front here.
Yeah.
And once I've finished adding all of them, then it'll look like this.
That is so pretty, and you could use it just like that even.
Exactly, exactly. This would make a nice little ring or perhaps earrings. And you can also use it as a foundation to embellish it further, for example. And what I've done in this project is that I've used a third color of Half-Tila to embellish it around the edge, to make this edging like this.
That looks so pretty.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. So how do we add this edging?
All right, so the first thing I'm going to do, it's kind of a picot variation. And I'm going to pick up my third color of Half-Tila and 3 size 15 seed beads like that. And I'm going to pass them all down to the end of my thread. And then I'm going to pass through the other hole of this Half-Tila. If I can get them to stay together there. Oops, sorry. And you can see this is what the edging is going to look like. And I like to give it kind of this zigzag shape, or this diagonal angle around the edge of the Rivoli here. And so to give it that edge for this first one, I'm coming out of this purple bead right here, and I'm going to go over to this one down here through that hole.
And is that making it really settle on the diagonal there?
Exactly. So when I pull it through, it'll just sit right up against that diagonal like that.
Okay. Can you show us adding another one, and then we can really see that pattern start to develop?
Exactly. So I'll add another Half-Tila and 3 more size 15 seed beads. Pass through the second hole of that Half-Tila. Whoop. Pull it nice and taut there. So for the second one, in order to get that same diagonal effect, I'm coming out of this bottom hole, and I'm going to pass through the top hole of the same Half-Tila, going in this direction, like that. You can see it just lines up on top just like that. And I'll just do a few more stitches so that we can see this develop.
Yeah, you know, this is a way that you could use these to embellish the edging on anything, really, that had a wide enough band, right?
Exactly, and that's a great point. Like, say if you had a bracelet maybe where you're using something like right angle weave, there's tons of really cool things you could do with these 2-hole beads in right angle weave. But that would make a really cool effect on the top of a bracelet.
Yeah, it
nice
would.
Texture. See, we can see that develop like that.
Now let us see the back there too, because we haven't really taken a look at the back of your piece.
There we go.
Yeah, so it looks exactly the same, right? Except for of course, the stone has the foil backing, so that point is settling in the back there.
Yeah, the stone has the foil backing, and also I have some 15s in the front here. And yeah, so that's another difference that we have.
Oh yeah. So you brought some other samples of how the edging can work. Let's take a look at those.
Exactly. So over here I have a little It's kind of a variation of right angle weave, and I've just woven my sample on this variation here just so we can see what it looks like on, let's say, a flat surface instead of a circular surface. And you can see when I work in the clockwise direction on my Rivoli, my Half-Tila beads sit kind of going this way, and so that's this sample right here, that's this left side. And so if I work in the counterclockwise direction, then they'll slant in the other direction.
So you could use that to create some extra texture, kind of layered onto the edge. How would you use it on other pieces?
On other pieces? Well, for example, on this one, say if I had maybe a flat bracelet, for example, either right angle weave, or there's many other possible stitches you could use. You could add this edging on top of a bracelet like that, and then it would give us a nice texture, a nice look to it. It would be kind of fun to wear, and then, you know, have it around your wrist all day. So.
Make it look a little shaggy, huh?
A little bit, exactly.
Right. Let's talk a little bit about the size of Rivolis too. So you have this sample that's the larger one.
So in the sample I just showed you, I used a 14 millimeter Rivoli. In this sample here, I have an 18 millimeter Rivoli. So I'm going to put this one here so you can see the size difference. And what I've done is, instead of starting with 10 beads, like I have with this one, I start with 13 beads. And then after that, it's just the same thread path, the same technique, only I just increase the number of beads appropriately. And that makes the perfect enclosure for an 18 millimeter Rivoli.
Yeah, and it gives it such a really beautiful finished look too. Now let's take a look at your bracelet, because when we come back, you're going to show us how to fasten these together.